like we say, Operation Sindoor has been paused, but it is not over. Here, it's not paused, it's on. Operation Meghdoot is on. The Pakistanis in 1983, when we pulled back, they came up. Mr. Sood, who was later the Director General RAW, Secretary RAW, he was one of the officers posted in Srinagar. So he went to General Hoon and said that some inputs have come that Pakistanis are buying high altitude equipment in Europe. Some inputs have come that they are buying. Written by Musharraf that their co-commander had planned operations as on the 30th of March. Now, he had planned that operations would be on the 30th of March, but because of these kind of inputs that he had got, he said, okay, let's do one thing. Let's postpone it by 1 month and we'll launch it on the 1st of May. Now, all this we don't know. Now, this is because what Musharraf has written in his book, and Musharraf was a colonel then. Yeah. He was in their military operations working, and he was privy to what was being discussed. So that is how he wrote. It was a turning point because Pakis had gathered down below. For us to be occupying the glacier, it takes almost 6-7 days to be actually get into position. Various camps are required to be started 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a whole lot of time, and then the bifurcations of it. But the Pakistanis is 1 day. They could just be down and climb up. So if you have to actually preempt the entire thing, the entire operations have to be kept absolutely secret. So as soon as we reached the Belafonda, the pilot suddenly told me, look, I'm not landing here. I said, what am I supposed to do now? He said, you jump. So the only radio operator, the entire operation gone. Dushman. He said, Dushman? And he said, I can see from top of Belafonda.
This is 84 again, June
1984. 23rd June 1984. He said, I can see the black spots on the white glacier. That means it wasn't there earlier, and those are not rocks. Those are moving. That means somebody has already come below us, which is about 300 meters down. So he came and told me, he said, Sahab, Dushman. And I said, what Dushman? Abhi yahan pe kahan? He said, Sahab, wo Chanchal bol raha hai. I knew Chanchal where he is, and if he's seeing something. So 23rd June, Pakis attacked. They repulsed that attack of they lost a lot of their men over there. But then that was the first attack on Siachen, a proper attack launched by the Pakistanis to occupy Belafonda, which they failed. And they continued doing so till Banagoda Shaurya Chakra on Belafonda itself. All credit goes to them. It's the team. Like we always say, together everybody achieves more.
Welcome to this very special edition of TOI podcast, Line of Duty, where we go beyond the headlines and into the altitudes where India's toughest battles are fought long before a single shot is fired. Today, we are joined by a man whose career is woven into the very fabric of India's high-altitude warfare, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, Siachen pioneer. Thank you for joining us, sir. You retired as DG Infantry. The next hour, I don't want us to talk strategy. I want us to talk what the uniform does to the mind, the heart, the spine, and the hidden costs of keeping a line on the map alive. And that's what we're going to talk about for the next 1 hour. You're stepping into a world, viewers, where courage has no witnesses and history is written on ice, literally. So I've introduced you as DG Infantry. You retired as DG Infantry. That is the post you retired from. But I should have started with calling you India's Siachen hero because viewers, Lieutenant General Kulkarni and his team were one of the first people to plant the tricolour on what we proudly call India's Siachen Glacier. If there's one thing the mountains never do, it's lie, sir. What is the one story that has I'm sure there are many stories from the Operation Meghdoot that you have. But what's that one story that has stuck with you?
Thank you very much, Aditi. You've make us feel good, but more than me, I see the passion in you, the commitment in you to be able to put across to the entire country what we all do or what we all have done. Thank you very much, and Jai Hind to you.
Jen?
You know, the first thing that strikes me is it's not me. That's the most important thing. If it hadn't been for the troops, I would have been nothing. So we must give full credit to the troops that were there.
You are Jawans.
100%. It's they who matter. And it's they who motivate you. And it is for them that you work harder still, because knowing that they are following you and they are doing what you want them to do. And you can only tell them to do if they are convinced in their mind, because they intend to lay down their lives on the orders that we would be giving. So all credit goes to them. It's the team. Like we always say, together everybody achieves more. So not self, not me. So during the entire conversation, not let anybody know or feel also that I did anything, that I is missing. It's we who did it. And that's the most important thing. And if not, as I repeat again, if not for the troops, it's not possible. Because Siachen per se, at about, when you go from base camp from about 12,000, go right up to 20,000, up to, so you find that a glacier, which is 76 kilometers long, 3 to 5 kilometers wide, have temperatures which go down as minus 50 degrees. You have winds blowing at over 100 kilometers an hour. At times, virtual no visibility whatsoever when it's freezing, absolutely freezing. Most of our refrigerators that you have at home, and you have those little, you show that the top thing is minus 3 degrees, and the other part is just about 19 degrees. So you find that at minus 3 degrees, we are freezing. And there we are at minus 50 degrees, sometimes going even lower than that. But then that was at a time when I was lucky. Lucky because we launched this operation in 1984. I had a view of it in 1982. Participated on a long-range patrol in 1983, and then finally launched by part of the Operation Meghdoot on the 13th of April.
You were a captain at that time.
I was a captain,
Right.
and hence launched operations on 13th of April 1984. So that's the. But how did it all start? That's the most thing which hopefully your viewers must understand, is that it is Pakistan which started the cartographic aggression. And that cartographic aggression, I recollect the army commander then, General Chibber, saying, we mustn't, it shouldn't become another accession that the Chinese decide to take it, and then we find ourselves difficult then to get it back. And hence, let this cartographic aggression be put to an end, because Pakistanis, if they have attempted, but how did he get to know of what was happening around? It was Colonel N. Kumar, whom we call Bull. He was the commandant of the high altitude warfare school. Now, when I went to do mountain warfare, I found Colonel N. Kumar involved in some expedition, and we were all to go to Leh because this institute is in Gulmarg, and then we were in Sonamarg, and then we were to go to Leh. And some seniors of the mountain warfare advanced course had come wanting to climb, and for the first time I heard the name Siachen. We didn't even know, we didn't have those many kind of maps
Right.
also of that area. So it was a wonderful thing, and we didn't know, and we all were going almost in the same convoy from Sonamarg. They were involved with him, and those two German mountaineers approached Sheikh Abdullah that we would want to do the Shok also in Iraq. So he said, okay, if the river Shok and Nubra rafting had to be done, you better approach Colonel N. Kumar. So while then they came to Colonel N. Kumar, and Colonel N. Kumar, while talking to them, found out that these people were talking about going to Siachen Glacier, and the maps that they had show that all of it is in India, but they're referring to, after all this, to going to Pakistan, because Pakistan has approved they're going to Siachen Glacier. And how's it? So he alarmed the Indian Army to say that, well, I had these two German mountaineers sent to me, but they seem to be taking the permission from Pakistan. But this area on map is ours because from the point NJ9842 that was identified, demarcated, delineated on the map way back in 1949 as part of the Karachi Agreement stood there. But the Americans had, I would call it inadvertently or advertently, let's give them the benefit of doubt, inadvertently, because those days Pakistan was also part of the CENTO and CETO.
Absolutely, and the US was very close to Pakistan.
Yeah, absolutely, with the United States. And therefore, we thought they did what their cartographer did, was to join point NJ9842 with the Karakoram Pass. The moment that line is drawn straight in the mountains to from 9842 to the Karakoram Park, Siachen Glacier became part of Pakistan. Now, when Siachen Glacier becomes part of Pakistan, adjoining Siachen Glacier is the Shaksgam Valley. Now, this Shaksgam Valley is about 5,000 odd square kilometers, which was gifted by Pakistan to China, and gifted to China with the view that they would settle the border dispute with China once and for all. And that having done in this also in 1963. So in 1963, Ayub Khan thought it is better to settle the border dispute with China rather than getting involved. So he gifted it. The Chinese took the Shaksgam Valley. And why did the Chinese take the Shaksgam Valley? It was interesting because the Khunjara Pass, which is part of the Shaksgam Valley, comes all the way to what we could now call it the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So the Karakoram Highway from the Xinjiang province of China comes through the Khunjara Pass, goes through Gilgit-Baltistan, and goes right onto the Arabian Sea and closer and to the Indus. So you find this particular road, which was then called the Karakoram Highway, now as part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which go and joins the Gwadar. Most people wouldn't know as to what is the Siachen Glacier, what is the importance of the Siachen Glacier, why did we all do, and why is this Operation Meghdoot since 1984 is still very much on. Like we say, Operation Sindoor has been paused, but it is not over. Here, it's not paused, it's on. Operation Meghdoot is on because, of course, since 2003, there's a ceasefire which is holding on. So that's a good thing that is holding on because, after all, in Siachen Glacier, more people have lost their lives to weather than they would have lost their lives to the bullets. So it was interesting and required also. That's a good thing. But to then, after having done this was, I'm talking about the German mountaineers meeting Colonel Kumar is around 1975-77. So in 78, when I was doing the course, he was given permission by, and at that time, the chief of the army staff was General Rainer. Now, General Rainer is Kumaon Regiment, and Colonel N. Kumar is Kumaon Regiment, and I'm also Kumaon Regiment. So all three of us are Kumaon, but well, I'm out of it because I'm a youngster then. At that point of time, I was only a lieutenant at that time when I was doing the course with them. But he had access to the chief because he was a very senior, very well-respected mountaineer of India. So he had access to the chief. He walked up to the chief and he said, the chief told him, go and meet the DGMO. And those days, it used to be known as Director Military Operations. Now they are, of course, known as Director General Military Operations.
So there was DMO?
Yeah, DMO was the DGMO. Now, then General Chibber, he was the DMO, who later became the Army Commander and came as Northern Army Commander, under whom this operation was launched. So he told him, Colonel Narendra, he was called Narendra because that was his name, and he was also called Bull because he was a solid person. So he said, yeah, what happened? He said, this is what has happened. They referred him to another brigadier to say, look, he has something, what is it all about? So they were told that this is what the Pakis have been doing. And they've been sponsoring foreign expeditions from their side, from the side of Skardu to the Siachen Glacier, because there are wonderful peaks. It's mountainous paradise, that entire thing. As a result of which these people have been sponsoring. The Japanese have been coming, the Britishers have been coming, the Germans have been coming. Much of it got revealed through the National Geographic magazines. Because every time you do...
There would be some feature that would appear and they would realize, oh, okay, they've allowed these people also to go there. And the fact is that they didn't own, or it was not a Pakistani, whatever. It was just a line drawn on the map by the US cartographers, and therefore they thought that, that this is ours. But just for the benefit of our viewers, Pakistan had planned an operation to take over the Siachen Glacier. I think that was going to happen in May. And India preempted that. And in April, we launched Operation Meghdoot. Tell us about that. How did that come about?
But I'm surprised that Aditi, you seem to be knowing quite a bit about it. Very good. I'm grateful. You know, what had actually happened was, since the foreigners were coming, sponsored by Pakistan would send their officer. In 1983, when I was part of that long-range patrol, and the senior to me, he twisted his ankle. Since he twisted his ankle, I was his 2IC. So they said, now, since he has twisted his ankle, now you lead this patrol for polar bear. So we went in for this polar bear. And one of these days, I was going to Belafondla. Now, La means a pass. So there are three main passes to the Siachen Glacier. The Siala, which is the northmost, and close from where you can actually see K2, the world's second highest peak after Mount Everest. Then you have Belafondla, which is almost the center of the glacier. And then you have a Gyongla further down south there. Now, since as part of 83, as part of that patrolling, I found at Belafondla certain wrappers. Now, when I found those wrappers, they were soda wrappers. Now, the soda wrappers had markings which, as a youngster, I didn't know whether the calligraphy was Chinese or Japanese, because both the scripts look identical.
Right.
There's a lot of similarity. Now, of course, I understand what's Japanese and what's Chinese. So I thought that. So I brought those soda wrappers and reported on this thing that I found some. That means there's some intrusion has occurred from Belafondla towards the Siachen side. So, lo and behold, we had the very next day, I had General Rawat come to see as to what happened. This General Rawat is later the CDS Bipin Rawat's father.
Right.
Now, he was Bipin's father. Now, since he came, he said, what happened? As I showed him the wrapper, I said, this is what has happened, and I think someone has been coming along. So who's this? He said, okay, don't worry. So he had come by chopper. Now, the helicopters over there, which we call them choppers almost at all times. So they don't stay there for too long. So they have just 10 minutes, unless until the person gets out. And then this helicopter will be doing, circling over there, and then again come pick up the passenger and take. So he said, what happened? He discussed, and he left. Sure enough, got to know later that there were Japanese mountaineers who had been wanting to come. Now, what we just asked for, that to whether the Pakistanis were attempting and did we preempt it. Now, this part got revealed when General Musharraf wrote his book In the Line of Fire. Now, when he wrote his book In the Line of Fire, kind of an autobiography that he was talking about, that is where he mentions that the Indians preempted. Now, how did we also, now I can put two into two, because when General Hoon, when he was the corps commander, General Chibber was the army commander, and Brigadier Channa was the sector commander. As to supposing we were to go a little early, how would it be? And I said it would be perfectly fine, because I've been there in 83 and I had the Indian equipment, so I would be able to go. So he said, okay, be ready. We don't know when we will launch our operation, but be ready to go a little earlier, because every year, this long-range patrols would be conducted in the month of July. So you would go in July, stay there till October, November, and fall back. So spend 90 days, because that was the only period available, because most of it was impossible to live before or to stay there.
Because of the weather conditions.
Terrible weather conditions. Yeah. And this is where what you asked, Aditi, is very important. And the most defining moment of the entire thing was that the Pakistanis in 1983, when we pulled back, they came up. And when they occupied the glacier in around November, and through their SSG, supposedly their most, crack force that they thought they would be there, they almost couldn't live on the glacier. And General Dahat Khan, their task force commander, their corps commander on the other side, he pulled them back. When they said that we are almost going to die now, it's impossible for us to live here, we're going to die. So they were pulled back. So since we had pulled back, they also pulled back. So you found that in November of 1983, both sides have pulled back, and now the weather turns bad. Obviously, there's no one on top of the glacier. So the Pakistanis, having understood that they couldn't stay in the month of November, and the clothing, probably whatever clothing that they had, they went shopping for this clothing abroad in Europe. And then Jalhoun, when he found out that I had committed myself, or as a young captain, when I was asked by the army commander that, youngster, can you do that in a little early? I said, sir, if I've done it in the month of July, hopefully I should be able to, I should be able to do it. Shouldn't be a big problem. But now, in the hindsight, I feel that Jalhoun gave me a very dirty look at that time. And he was instructor horse. Since he was instructor horse, he knew what it would be a little before. I didn't know a little before meant how much before that. I didn't know at all as a youngster. But as part of it, after the conference was over, he pulled me back. He said, look, youngster, you'll die if you go a little early in the kind of clothing. But then he had probably promised the army commander, or he had already got the permission. He went to Europe to pick up the best of equipment. And in that, a little before that, General Sood, Mr. Sood, was later the Director General Raw.
Okay.
Secretary Raw.
Got it.
Secretary Raw. He was one of the officers posted in Srinagar. So he went to Jalhoun and said that some inputs have come that Pakistanis are buying high altitude equipment in Europe. Some inputs have come that they're buying, and it couldn't be for they're going to Antarctica, because we were also in around the same time going to Antarctica, coming back, those missions were going on. So he said, how come the Pakis have picked up almost 300-400 sets abroad? And these kind of equipment is generally bought by people who are wanting to climb Mount Everest, or if they're going to Antarctica. Pakistan has no plans for Antarctica, and neither are they going there. This huge purchase of equipment seems a little, and he left it at that. Then when he went there, he found that there was no equipment available for us. Everything had been bought by Pakistan, entire Europe. All of the equipment that was to be used for high altitude had been bought by Pakistan. Anyway, he placed an order, and to your surprise, that order that we placed came on the 12th of April, 1984, in the evening at around 5 in the evening. That is one day before the launch. That entire
13th of April, you guys.
13th April we were to launch, and 12th of April 1984, that equipment came from abroad. All efforts of General Hoon to run around and telling them that all these manufacturers abroad says it's not possible for the kind of equipment that. But he said, no, I want it. So everybody would have run around, I'm sure, that we got it on that well. Now this again gets written by Musharraf, that their co-commander had planned operations as on the 30th of March. Now, he had planned that operations would be on the 30th of March, but because of this kind of inputs that he had got, he said, okay, let's do one thing. Let's postpone it by 1 month and we'll launch it on the 1st of May. Now, all this we don't know. Now, this is because what Musharraf has written in his book, and Musharraf was a colonel then.
Yeah.
He was in their military operations working, and he was privy to what was being discussed. So that is how he is written, that I was a colonel. And when he became a brigadier later, he led the SSG for attacks on Siachen. All of them failed. All of them failed, including the attack which he launched on top of Belafonla, for which Bana got the Shaurya Chakra. All his attacks failed. It was that thing, that kind of I would say that desire, that how come he got defeated at all times on Siachen, and the Indians have preempted and occupied Siachen Glacier. It is that vindictiveness and that desire to take revenge that he launched Kargil operations in 1999, when he became the chief of the army staff. So you see a colonel heard all this, a brigadier, he launched operations, failed. As a chief of the army staff, he resuscitates old plans of occupation of Kargil Heights and achieve. And that is the time when Mr. Bajpayee, also as Prime Minister, when he went and he was introduced by Nawaz Sharif that he's my chief, Musharraf, he did not salute our Prime Minister. And that is the audacity that this man had, not to salute, because he had in mind what he had to, because
that's what he's good.
Yeah, because they went in Jan or Feb of that bus yatra to Pakistan, and within no time we had already started occupying heights all along Kargil. So it had probably started even much before. So he knew what was there. Probably their Prime Minister, what he says, Nawaz Sharif says that he probably didn't know what Musharraf was planning. But Musharraf says he briefed him. He may not have understood what I'm telling. So that is the difference.
That is
between Musharraf and
Musharraf and
yeah.
Sharif. But sir, I just want to come to you. So we launched this operation on 13th of April in 1984. You talked about the weather and how your own instructor gave you a dirty look when you said that you would go in April instead of when this weather becomes a little habitable, which is in May. April, when you went in, what were the weather? You also had a casualty due to the weather conditions. It's the coldest battlefield in the world, the Siachen Glacier. Tell us what happened.
See, firstly, I didn't know that it was to be April or May or whatever that is. Brigadier Channa, who was the sector commander, probably he along with General Hoon and the GOC, General Sharma and General Chibba, who was the army commander, decided. And General Brigadier Channa, who was the sector commander, he said, we will launch operation on the 13th of April 1984. So most of us told him, sir, 13th is a really unlucky day. Now, why do you want to launch operation on the 13th of April? He said, no, not at all. On the contrary, it's the most auspicious day for India and also for Pakistan, because 13th April is Baisakhi. Pakistani also celebrate Baisakhi. We also celebrate Baisakhi. It's New Year. And he was a Kashmiri. So he said, no, I am telling you, it's the most auspicious day and we will have 100% success. And that is how, for nothing, not that we knew Pakistan were to launch operations on the 1st or the 3rd. We didn't know anything about that. But his decision to launch on the 13th of April 1984 was the turning point, because Pakistan had gathered down below. For us to be occupying the glacier, it takes almost 6-7 days to be actually get into position. The various camps are required to start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a whole lot of the time, and then the bifurcations of it. For the Pakistanis, it's 1 day. They could just be down and climb up. So if you have to actually preempt the entire thing, the entire operations have to be kept absolutely secret. Otherwise, a slightest this thing, for which we were told that the radio silence will be maintained, that there will be no opening of the radio set, will be nothing done whatsoever for at least 5 days, and we were self-contained for 5 days. We launched on this thing. Now, what your question is, how cold was it and what is it like in the period? Very cold, because we were only at the base camp. We did not venture onto the glacier. Only a small team which was with me in 1983 was also a part of this. Now, in 1983, it was a small team of just about 30 odd people of us to go in, a mixed lot of Ladakh scouts, of the Kumar regiment and the others, the doctor and everybody with us. But for 1984, it was an entire company which was to occupy one pass, yet another company to occupy another pass. So all that was said. And all these operations would be conducted by helicopters. The helicopter was to carry 30 of us, in just 2 in one helicopter. So there were a whole lot of these sorties which were to go back and forth to drop us over there, come back like that. And therefore we had late. So on the 10th of April, or was it 11th of April, they decided that we will do one aerial reconnaissance. And I went along with them and they said, have a look-see. It was a clear day, absolutely crystal blue sky and crystal white was the snow there. I saw all of it. I recollected my walking and everything over there. I told the pilots, I'm perfectly fine. I have understood where it is. So they told me that just tell us on the day of 13 where you want to be dropped. I told them Belafonla. This is Belafonla. Just short of it, you drop me or on Belafonla, whichever. They said we'll decide upon. Now I'm not too sure whether the pilots who took me on a recce were the same ones who came to ferry us on the 13th of April. Because on the 13th of April, we suddenly found 8 odd chop helicopters come, 1, 2, 3, 4, to take 2, every sortie 2 of them. So in the first 2 choppers that went up in the early morning, one of it was me along with my radio operator, Mandu, and yet another helicopter, those 2 boys who were with me in the 1983. So both Prakash and Ramesh were these 2 boys who were on top. And I said, okay, now so they also know and I also know, so it is not a problem. We could all be able to guide the pilots to the place. So as soon as we reached the Belafonda. Now the pilot suddenly told me, look, I'm not landing here. I said, what am I supposed to do now? He says, you jump. No, I said, if I jump, I have no problems. I'll jump. But then there are so many crevices in that particular area. It should not become yet another operation of trying to, you start evacuating me from there and, taking me out of it. I said, the best is you lie and I'll tell you as to where to lie. And I said, I have a small little Artica bori under my seat, which is about 10 odd kgs. I said, I'll push that from top. And if it sinks, I will know that this is not the area where I should
Good thinking,
jump.
sir.
Otherwise, I'll go on a harder thing. If it doesn't sink, it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. So we threw the damn thing down and we found that it was on top. So I said, yeah, just low over, I'll jump. He said, low over, jump. I said, jump down. The moment I jumped over there, I found that I was perfectly fine. I showed my thumbs up. I said, seems okay. Now, there were two choppers. One was hovering on top to see what we were doing over there. So they saw that the helicopter. I told him, now land. Because the radio operator was the huge radio set. So that couldn't be taken for a jump. So he had to land. So he landed. He said, how's the... I said, perfectly firm. I'm aware of this area. No problems. Just land. So he landed there. No, the other chopper also came. Within about 40 minutes of our landing, the radio operator says, I suffered. He says, I can't breathe. I'm getting breathless. Now, all of us had been trained for so much. But despite that, human body is... Training is one part and executing is yet another part. So we found that this boy, I said, no, doesn't matter. I told him, I said, there'll be lots of sorties coming. It'll be minimum 15 sorties are there for the 30 of us. I'll evacuate you. But till then, don't lose your morale and keep it high. Don't worry. We'll ensure. After about 40 minutes, the chopper came and back he went. So the only radio operator on the entire operation gone. First 5 days, we were self-contained. We were not to open the radio set. So by about 11 o'clock, all of us, the 30 of us came, less this boy who got evacuated. So we were 29. Now, the same set of choppers, helicopters, were to take the platoon to Siala. So once we finished by 10:30 of hours, because we started at about 5:30 in the morning, so we'll have ended about that time. And then the weather turned bad. Extremely bad. Unbelievably bad. Mirza, you cannot even imagine. Something that was so clear some time back could turn so bad. Visibility turned low, very low. Wind speeds at such... Now, all of us who had spent so much of time over there in 1983, ourselves, we thought, how the thing has suddenly changed. It's ridiculous, absolutely. Now, all of us was, anyway, we hung out it. Now, we were told 5 days, no radio set, no, nothing, just keep mum. We kept on. Now, the third day, every attempt to go into Belafonda. Now, the aim was we were dropped short of Belafonda. So, we had to go to Belafonda to...
and you were hiking your way up.
All hiking. Not very far either. But then, if it's snowing heavily, very heavily, and it's very windy, blizzardous weather, you can't just move at all. And people like me sank right up to the neck into it. It's so difficult. All of us are roped up. We're not able to move up. And this was terrible for the first 3 days. I said, what? Now, couldn't even reach Belafonda. That was bad. But we were quiet. We had rations with us. We had cooked food was there. So we were managing it somehow. On the third day, Ramesh died. Now, since he died, now, the moment I was all to Belafonda, they told me, come back. I said, what happened? They said, Ramesh is no more. I said, what happened? He says, a froth in his mouth. So there's a thing called the high altitude pulmonary edema. You get lungs, water in the lungs. So you can die instantly. So this boy dead now. He was with me in 83. Now I looked at him. I said, no, his poor boy is no more. I said, what else to do? So I told my company commander, I said, we may have to open the radio set. Today is only the third day. But then we've been told not to open the radio set for 5 days. Now each one of us is in a tent, which is a small thing in which only 2 boys can come. So I said, max, we pushed 3 into it. Now, I said, now if we keep him inside, then keeping the other boys with him also would look, it's very, very difficult. Whatever it may be done, very difficult. I said, I can't keep him out because it's snowing so heavily. Like you will not even know where he's lying after that. So I said, nothing doing. Let's open the radio set and tell them that Ramesh is no more and just leave it at that. Sure enough, we told, they heard their Ramesh is no more. But in the bad weather, they did send the helicopter and they took the Ramesh's body back. And after that, I moved up to Bilafonla. And guess what I see? As soon as I reach Bilafonla, the Pakistani chopper comes from the other side. Right now, we are already at such a great height. Now, their helicopters can't fly higher than that, not very high. So I could see the pilot's eye and he's looking at me. Now, they, how did they get to know? I'm sure the radio said that we opened to tell Ramesh is no more. They picked up the signal. These Indians are somewhere very close. So they sent their helicopter to see what's happening on Siachen. They were already waiting now. They had already moved because that initial plan of theirs was to come on the 30th, which got postponed by 30 days. So they must be relaxing in their own little this thing. No, they would have realized it. So they sent their helicopter and they found that we were sitting on top of Balafonla. So that is why Musharraf writes that India preempted us because they were waiting down and we had to come for such a great distance to occupy it.
This happened in 1984, but you're saying the Siachen uh, Operation Meghdoot is still on. Why do you say that? Because, yes, we occupied it. It's not gone back to the Pakistanis since then. Have they tried to take over the glacier in all these years?
Yeah.
How many times?
I'll tell you. Till 1987, 100%. And on and off continued till 2003 when the ceasefire is up. So you can imagine from 1984 till 2003, so many attacks by Pakistanis. So many attacks by Pakistanis. Each of them being defeated. Every attack repulsed. And that is how, till date, that we occupy Siachen Glacier. You're not only fighting the enemy, but you're also fighting the weather. That weather itself is a huge this thing, and you wouldn't be able to see anybody sitting just at a hand's distance. You only would spot a person till, and we realized it on the 23rd of June, 1984, when the first assault came on my post at Bilafonla. Now, 23rd June also happens to be the longest day. Now, a day before, I did hear a lot of firing being done on the other side. I could see them over there on the Siachen Glacier. So, and the evening period, they shelled my location. So when they shelled my location, I knew that I should expect some attack might be coming on me. And sure enough, on the 23rd of June, early hours in the morning, my sentry, Chanchal Singh, he sent a word to the patrol. The Haldar would have been going around and in charge of the patrolling which was done on the post. He told him, ki, Dushman. He said, Dushman? And he said, I can see from top of Bilafonla. This is 84 again, June 1984, 23rd June 1984. He said, I can see the black spots on the white glacier. That means it wasn't there earlier, and those are not rocks. Those are moving. That means somebody has already come below us, which is about 300 meters down. So he came and told me, he said, Saab, Dushman. And I said, what Dushman? Abhi yahan pe kahan? He said, Saab, wo Chanchal bol raha hai. I knew Chanchal, there he is. And he's seeing something. So he was very alert and on that particular day. And the shelling that had taken place on the 12th of April, 22nd of June, also alerted me to what was may expect on the next day. So 23rd June, Pakis attacked. They repulsed that attack of they lost a lot of their men over there. But then that was the first attack on Siachen, a proper attack launched by the Pakistanis to occupy Bilafonla, which they failed. And they continued doing so till Banagada, Shaurya Chakra on Bilafonla itself. And similar attempts at Siala were very difficult. And same at Gyaungla, another place where they were almost eyeball to eyeball in contact. So this kind of a thing, which started off a battle with the Pakistanis with weather, and the Pakistanis continued till 2003. Now, for a change, of course, vigilance is very important. You can't trust Pakistan, whatever it's worth, because they would always up to something which you... So since you're occupying heights, it's very difficult to dislodge people from heights. That's what Musharraf also thought, that we will occupy heights on Kargil. It would be impossible, as much it was impossible for the Pakistanis to regain any heights on Siachen Glacier. Same thing, India would fail to occupy heights on Kargil. Still, they didn't realize it, that our men and our young officers are so good, irrespective of whatever. That is how they lost Kargil. Otherwise, and everybody in the Indian Army today have almost gone through Siachen. So they also take pride that I've served on Siachen. That means now I'm a battle tested. I'm not only alive, I can fight and that helped us in Galwan also. Because by the time Galwan came, all these troops who were deployed over there had gone through the toughest of terrain. They knew exactly what it means to acclimatize, what it means to stay and survive at 18,000 feet, 20,000 feet, what it means, how to breathe, how to walk. I always say, don't be a Gama in the land of Lama.
And at this moment, I just want to thank you for your service, and not just you, all the soldiers who protect our borders, and that line which is invisible but protected by all your efforts, your bravery. So, as I said, not just you, all the soldiers who are there.
Glad I said not me, please.
Also you, sir. But
I just represent them in front of you.
Absolutely, sir. I agree. Every last soldier matters, and that is the sense that I'm coming from. But having said that, let's just move on to, you've served both at the LAC as well as the LOC. What's the difference while deploying at the LOC versus the LAC? LOC being the one with Pakistan, LAC being the line of actual control with China.
See, with LAC, it's generally in high altitude. All along the LAC is in high altitude. LOC would be also at high altitudes, can at lower altitudes. You rightly said LOC is along Pakistan, LAC is along China. But generally the Chinese come to LAC from the rear. LOC, at most places, we are eyeball to eyeball. So you find that even Siachen also, it's called the AGPL, actual ground position. So you find that everybody, that is why as yet no agreement has taken place, because we for sure know that you can't trust Pakistan. Pakistanis who have requested, come on their knees also, come on, pull back, because they aren't able to sustain themselves. But we said nothing doing, because unless you identify and recognize that this is your position and that's your position on the map, and now we have GPS also to know exactly where each person is. But the Pakistanis have been avoiding it because they have nefarious designs to occupy. So the LOC, all along, LOC, you have virtually eyeball to eyeball confrontation. LAC, not necessarily. You would find at very few places that you would actually be having eyeball. Natula is one that you will be having eye to eye. Bumla is another. Otherwise, most of these places, the Chinese are far behind. And they've come because they've created infrastructure. So they have roads and they drive down or they walk down and then come. And that is why the patrolling that takes place, which happens in Galwan or Pangang, so they come down patrolling and then they stay. And then like the LAC.
Create a new line.
Absolutely. That is called the line of actual control. So in our perception, the LAC run. There's no fencing. LOC, we have fencing. LOC along Jammu and Kashmir, we have fenced it. So we know exactly.
Many places not.
Yeah, so you can easily say that, well, that side is Pakistan and this side is India. Whereas with China, there is no fencing. So the LAC is a perception and a perceived line that this is how we call burjis. We put those stones along saying that, well, they wouldn't want to cross, we wouldn't want to cross, but should in bad weather or somebody not knowing exactly where it is and he crosses it, and we have spotted it. Then we have a banner drill. A banner drill means you pick up a banner and it's written in Chinese for him that, look, you're crossing and please stay on your side and do not cross this LAC. So they understand and they pull back. And along the LAC, we've not had a single shot fired. Along the LOCs, frequently with Pakistan, it's been on and off firing without any this thing. Even Operation Sindoor, we saw what happened. So there is firing along the LOC, but along the LAC, we don't fire. I mean, we have stuck both the countries, have stuck at least to the peace and tranquility agreement, despite what happened at Galwan.
Yeah, and let's just talk about Galwan. And so while there's no fighting and then Galwan happened, what is that one thing about China's intent that every Indian must understand? There's a lot of back and forth, and suddenly there's this whole talk after Trump's tariffs about, aligning closely with China. What is that one thing about China's intent that we must know? Every Indian must know before jumping into such statements.
I can narrate this with an anecdote for you.
Sure.
Sitaram Kesari was the Congress person who became, I think, a foreign minister for some time. He was being briefed in the MO and he used to visit China. And most of the time he had his eyes closed. And he was, so probably the briefing general would have thought that case the minister has gone off to sleep or not.
Not interested.
Not what. He was damn attentive. He was listening to all of it. He heard, though he wasn't on eye contact. The moment the briefing finished, he said only one thing. हम समझ गए आप क्या बोल रहे हैं जनरल साहब. आप बता रहे हैं चीन ना कि वो हमारे डीटीसी के बस ड्राइवर के जैसे है, दाहिने को हाथ दिखाता है और बाएं को मोड़ता है. So one word, and it was adequate for him to understand that what China is all about. They do not walk the talk, and that we have to be very, very careful, very vigilant. China believes in, with, I would say, strength. And they would rather discuss with people who have strength. So if you have strength, they know that you can't mess around. And that feeling must be there in them, which they got it at Doklam. They got that in Galwan. And all along before that also when they were patrolling. But of course there were peace and tranquility agreements which were there with China. But where they did not follow those, and what happened in Doklam or what happened at Galwan, was China now gets that message. So if they wish to discuss anything from a position of strength, you know that he also knows. And Chinese, by and large, believe that the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without a fight. So that is what the Chinese believe in. And they will always come to you with strength. But if you've given them there, they will just stop and they wouldn't want to go beyond. Like they're always testing waters. Pakistan, on the contrary, is constantly at it only. They'll keep firing only. They are not bothered. They have to be wrapped. With Pakistan, the only way is to give it back to them in the same coin and make them realize, come on, you do this, you get more from me. They understand that language.
But with China, you have to show strength in order to be for the other side to treat you with the same respect. Does India have that strength? The Indian military at this point, a lot is talked about how the Chinese military is eons ahead. But we've shown what we can do in Doklam, in Galwan, as recent as that. How far behind is the Indian military?
See, all these places are great heights. Most of the places what we're referring to are at great heights where human endurance counts. It's just not the machine. It's the man behind the machine, because the machine may not just work. You might have a GPS, it may not work because it's freezing and the batteries would have collapsed. So the man matters at these great heights. In that context, the Indian soldier is far, far superior because he stays there. As I told you, along the LAC, the Chinese come from rare. They come to us. They could be 8 kilometers behind, they could be 10 kilometers behind, under a good infrastructure, centrally heated, using vehicle. So they become chocolate boys. They found that the Indians are, tigers. They're just fighting. There's nothing seems to bother them. And that is something with the Chinese. And therefore, the modernization of China, the equipment is, they're heavily capital intensive. They have modernized. There's no denying the fact. And even when you see the aircraft, our aircrafts are flying from the lower altitude, flying to the higher altitude with the load. If there's that high altitude, he's not flying with the complete load. Neither is he going full fuel. So he has a limited area of operation. He knows exactly how to go. So they are at a disadvantage. There's no denying the fact. But yes, the weather on the Indian side is extremely bad because they are on a plateau. Whereas we have to climb up to get to the plateau. Whereas they are on a plateau. So you find that their train is coming from Beijing right to Lhasa and coming all the way on to Shigatse, and now they're wanting to join it to Kathmandu. So the Chinese are coming because they're along a plateau, though of course it's sub-zero at various places. But for us, we have to actually climb all the way up and then we have to get to the plateau. So our side, the weather is invariably bad, very bad. Most of the time, foggy, misty, raining, all that kind of.
I just want to shift focus now, and I want to get into what made you join the forces in the first place. What was the calling? What happened? Was it just because a lot of your friends were going to do it, so you got into it? Or was there a calling that you had?
See, firstly, when we all joined, 71 war had just got over. So 71 war was something that India's victory was a big thing, and everybody saw the victory. That was this thing. And I studied in the Air Force School at Subrata Park. Before that, I was at Balbati at Lodi Road over there. And from our school only, Dr. Jaishankar was senior in school by just about 2 batches. He is, of course, the foreign minister today. And so you find that school also had that environment. And that was one. Secondly, then I went to Shriram College of Commerce. Of all the places, Shriram College doesn't provide officers to the army. They are excellent chartered accountants, excellent lawyers. And then I had my senior, Arun Jaitley. I decided to join the army, firstly because of the Air Force school background. And that is how. And well, all said and done, made my way up slowly, steadily.
All these stories, they get me to this point that, is there a point that you would like to tell the civilians? What part of a soldier's life maybe civilians don't understand? Because now that you retired and you're coming and you've been living with civilians, among civilians, what part of your life as a soldier civilians find it difficult to understand?
See, first and foremost, I would say that the kind of discipline that we all go through, sometimes I find that is something missing amongst the rest of them. Secondly, the kind of camaraderie, the love, the affection that the troops have, you always miss it. You will never get that anywhere outside. The third thing is the families. You can miss out on so many birthdays and anniversaries. You really don't know. I have only one child, a daughter. And she's studying in Army Public School, Dolakwa. How she grew, one didn't know. It's only later on. And by the time she grew and I started understanding her, she went to the hostel. I started doing engineering. So you find that that connect with the family is difficult. And yet another thing in the army also, nobody knows. It's not a very hierarchical organization, who not everybody. Now, as I said, I was studying also in the Balbati Air Force School at Lodi Road. And guess what it is? I would be getting down from the bus to get into the school in my shorts those days when Habitat wasn't there and the entire school was in barracks in Lodi Road. And I retire right opposite the gate of Balbati School. Right opposite the gate, as neighbor to Mr. Shashi Tharoor, 96, 97 Lodi Estate. One is his, one is mine. So that is life. Start off as a youngster not knowing what is going to happen to you in life, and you retire from a house you occupy in Little Delhi, right opposite the school that you have got. How many people can get that opportunity to retire at the gate opposite your school gate? And being, of course, neighbor to Mr. Shashi Tharoor.
Right.
So it was a good fun. I tell you, army life is fantastic, unbelievable. If anybody was to tell me, what would you want to be in your next life, I'd say back again into the army. They tell me nothing better.
It's got its risks.
You have to work hard. If anybody wants to join the army thinking he doesn't have to study or he doesn't have to do anything, no. It involves a lot, because it involves why you need to study is to save the lives that you're leading. If you're not aware about the enemy, if you don't know what you have to know what the enemy has, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and that you're leading your men. You have to ensure each one of them survives, lives, and he has that faith in you and trust in you that yes, he will take us into war and bring us back. Now, they're willing to die. Everybody is willing to die, no problem at all. But that faith and trust that he must have on the leaders that are leading him, I think is very important. And our army, by far, are the best. I would rate, because having gone the world over now, and when I come back, and as you rightly said, on retirement, of course, I think every day, 5 minutes, I'm missing something.
But what does leadership look like at minus 40 degrees? You said that you served there. You managed those boys, as you call them. They were like family. What does leadership at minus 40 degrees look like?
It's either lead, follow, or get out of the way. If you're there, you have to be there with them. You have to be a part of them. There is no attitude. You're just one amongst them. If that you mustn't be with them with anything on your shoulder. There's nothing on your shoulder. You're part of them, but you know that it is your responsibility to take care.
Do you recall a moment when protocol be damned and your instinct took over?
Yes, when people fall into the crevice, I've seen an entire helicopter go into a crevice. Can you imagine? An entire helicopter go into a crevice. It just lands and there's a whiteout condition, and the whole helicopter goes down with the pilots. And the first thing you do is look for a rope and go down to rescue them. Because all whatever you had, because there are very few boys at that particular time available, very different. But these are good moments, nice moments. Cherish them if you can save somebody's life. So much better. After having saved life, also you find someone's lost a limb, somebody's lost this thing. Then you do meet them over the years. Now, like this boy Ramesh, now who died on 17th of June, 17th of April, 1984. Almost about 16, 17 years later, I get a call. I was posted in Delhi. He said, साहब, I said, कौन बोल रहा है? साहब, मैं रमेश का भाई बोल रहा हूँ. He said, अरे, आप कहाँ पर हो? मैं ऐसा बैंक में नौकरी करता हूँ, मैं नोएडा में हूँ. ऐसे बहुत अच्छे, मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ आपके लिए? कैसे याद किया आपने? ये टेल मी साहब, वो रमेश का लड़का बड़ा हो गया है. ऐसे उसको भर्ती करना है फौज में. Now look at this. At the investiture ceremony, Ramesh got Kirti Chakra and I got Shaurya Chakra. So we were both at the investiture ceremony. Obviously, Ramesh wasn't there. He got it posthumously. But his wife was there. And wife was carrying a small baby, 7 months old, with father-in-law, her father, both of them in the Kumaon regiment, both of them retired as Subedars, and this girl was there. So I had that memory of 7-month-old baby who she was carrying. And 16, 17 years later, I get a call from the brother. कि साहब लड़की को भर्ती करा. ऐसे रमेश की लड़की को भर्ती कराना. हाँ साहब. मैंने कहा क्या करता है? वो साहब 10th पास हो गया है. ऐसे उसकी माँ क्या करती है? अब वो उसको बड़ा किया है. उसने शादी की दूसरी. नहीं साहब, उसने शादी नहीं की. वो इसको पाल किया. Look at it. The lady is willing to send the son back into the army. And that boy served 20 years in the same company that his father was in Fokumau and retired from there. He's retired now. Just see, in my own span of 40 years in the army, I saw all of this. Father dying, his son growing, his brother ringing. I was said, what a life it is all about. That is that love and affection. The mother wasn't scared. Mother wasn't worried. My only child will be able to live, not live. Where she has lost the husband. This boy has never ever seen the father. He was only 7 months at the investiture ceremony in Rashtrapati Bhavan. And Jani Zail Singh did the honors for the investiture. This is what life is all about.
Okay. Your toughest moment in combat, or can I put it differently? Was there any moment that you were scared?
See, it would be wrong to say not scared, because even when the first shot is fired, and like even on that day when the shots are fired, your mouth will turn dry for a moment, because suddenly you find that the enemy is attacking you. You got to reorganize yourself. You got to tell the boys. You got to pass the orders. You're running around that. You would get that, but within no time, your mouth can turn dry. There is no denying that. I've seen that in counterinsurgency when I fired upon by the militants, and when you fire back at the militant, and when in Doda when I was posted, I would tell the parents, I said, get your son surrendered. If he doesn't surrender, then don't blame me tomorrow. I am going to kill him because I know where he is. And so they would say, no. As always, he's not under us. We can't do anything. I said, can I kill him? I would even ask them, I said, can I kill him? Tomorrow, I don't want any tamasha on the road. So, and this I'm talking about is 95, 96, 93, when the insurgency was at peak. They would say, ठीक है साहब, अगर आपको मिलता है तो मार दो. They were very confident he would never kill, and killed him. And then take him, ये आपका लड़का है. Then they would, ये हाँ हमारा. So I would tell you, your son is a militant that is doing all this kind of thing. Look at the weapon that he is carrying. And you said, you can do nothing. I have done it. So I said, a dead militant is a good militant. I said, it is for you all to ensure that these kind of things don't happen. And I warned you, I said, had kept telling you that please tell him to surrender. The father, I've seen it in Thai insurgency in Kashmir, in one family, you'll find one militant, one engineer, yet another might be an Anganwadi worker, yet another would be a teacher, yet another government employee, but एक होगा उसमें से कोई ऐसा militant. Why? Because that goodwill that it generates in that village, and the best house will be theirs. Very easy to find out who is that house. And if you take that, you know that where the wire goes to. It's very. So that is why sometimes, people do say, "ये bulldoze कर दिया घर, bulldoze कर दिया घर." It is not bulldoze कर दिया घर. You have to kill that anti-national instinct. Don't do that. Don't do that. We tell you 10 times over. I have gone their houses so many times because we know who's a militant by this thing. They would say, no, we don't know. We don't know. He is not our son. He's left us long back. But it is he who's giving them that, goodwill in that village and the money that is coming and the best girls for their sons for marriage, everybody in that entire. So it's something you cannot define, you can't say anything, but you know that what leads to it. And then people say, "Nee, ye kar diya, wo kar diya." It is nothing like that. When they say army atyachar karti means probably they're only showing that, is army ne डाल दिया.
It's about taking the
Yeah.
narrative.
Yeah.
It's about taking ownership of the
They
narrative.
don't know, most people don't know the background.
Right.
How much effort we put in to see to it, because we understand who's ours and who's not theirs and who's been gone on the wrong path. We all understand everything. So, and if we know that he's trained in Pakistan, we know when he's crossed the border, he has to die because there's no other way.
On Kashmir today, after the revocation of 370, and I'm talking purely from the army operations point of view.
See, the abrogations of Article 370, to what, when I was posted there, to what the things are like. There's so much of stone pelting I've gone through. Night convoys to drive through so that there are no stone pelting. Total occupation of roads and patrolling all along with a view to ensure that we moved comfortably. After the abrogation of Article 370, you find nothing like that. Most people have joined the mainstream. Most people have joined them. You would find a fringe element of these kind of things, but very small, which we call sleeper cells or working as overground workers with this kind of thing. But it is only a small portion. But now what has happened now, you find doctors involved into it. The
white collar,
collared one going right up to Faridabad and Gujarat, and you find in Bangalore and all these places in the link. Now, this is something which is dangerous because they are not the ones who, even if I do go and tell them or convince them, they are quite now clear in their mind. They're adults and they're doing it, knowing fully well what they're doing it. And they are intelligent and therefore they need to be sorted out. And that sorting out is to be eliminated should they be found involved into these kind of activities. Because now they are not carrying guns, but they're carrying their brains.
And
They're using their brains doing all these notorious activities and learning IEDs, making IEDs, blasting this and blasting that. That means now if you say this only with someone with a weapon, you will kill. No, he doesn't have a weapon. So he's everything in his mind. So using his intelligence, he's weaponizing his intelligence into destruction. And therefore he needs to be killed. There's no denying the fact. Because we have to be clear that anyone who's anti-national must be told and shown his place. Anti-nationals are not acceptable because we must be able to say that this is my country. Well, misunderstandings, you could say aspirations, yes, their aspirations must be met. Everyone's aspirations must be met. That's what the nation is for. But not at the cost of lifting an arm or killing somebody. And then, as if there are no human rights of the soldiers, the human rights only exist for them.
Right.
It's not correct that way. Now, to what happened at Red Fort, you can see all innocent people died on the road, irrespective of their religion. It was nothing that only one particular religious people died. No, everybody died. Everybody died. So these kind of things are not tolerable, not acceptable. Total zero tolerance for terrorism is the policy, whether it emanates from Pakistan or it germinates inside. Both have to be eliminated. It has to be done because otherwise Israel is surrounded by enemies. So are we, but we also have internal enemies. So we have greater challenges than what Israel may have. Israel is fighting only the enemies on the periphery. They have none inside the country, but we have inside the country also and outside the country also. So we have to be, it's a very challenging thing for the security forces.
I hear you, sir, and I understand that. Uh, I'll just move focus a little bit because you retired as DG infantry. So I want to talk to you about the infantrymen because that's the largest part of our forces today, infantrymen. They are the first people who go into combat and they are on foot. What is the role of an infantryman as far as modern warfare is concerned?
See, irrespective of modernization, irrespective of drones, satellites, cyber, you have all kinds of weaponry with you. You have to have boots on ground to show that you're one. If anybody who occupies a ground,
वहाँ झंडा तो लहराना है.
झंडा लगाना है. अगर हम लोग बेलाफोनला में जाके अपना झंडा नहीं गाड़ते तो कैसे पता चलता ये हमारा इलाका है. And similarly, you find in the Russia-Ukraine, what are the Russians doing? They're going and showing in provos कि हमारा झंडा लगा है, we have come till here. That is indicated. That means at all times, until and unless you have boots on ground to tell you that it is our land, infantry will never ever, that is the first task of their country. The last bit of the battle has to be done by the infantry if you have to hold the ground. Modernization of infantry is a must. Warfare will remain. The kind of warfare will change. The kind of adversary will change. The kind of, the battlefield may change. But infantry relevance will not go. Infantry will have relevance. And in that context, I would say modernization, communication, logistics, infrastructure, ability to comprehend what does the enemy have, what is it that we have, what are his strengths, what is my strength, and how would I utilize my strength vis-a-vis his strength, and how do I go about. All of it has to be done by the man on ground. To his support, everybody is there. The artillery will be there, armor may be part with us or even be supporting us and will be a part of the battlefield. In case in high altitude also, some portion, if the tanks can fly or the mechanized vehicles can fly, they'll be there. The Air Force will be there. Everybody is supporting this person on ground to ensure that he wins. Because if adversary plants a flag to say, no, what they're talking, and today in where media is so, intrusive and they are everywhere, you can't lie. The satellite will show you where you are or where you're not. So you can't lie, and therefore victory lies where your feet are. And infantry is absolutely essential, irrespective of what may happen tomorrow in the futuristic battle.
So when you were captain of the infantry, you would have very different. We were not that modernized. They didn't have modern weapons. The 6-saw rifles, the AK-203s, the night vision goggles, the drones, the ballistic protection. All of that they have now. Is there out of all these things, what has empowered the infantryman the most?
See, it enhances his confidence that he can survive in the battlefield. And since he's wearing a bulletproof jacket, he knows he can take on a bullet or two. No problems whatsoever. Until the bullet penetrates the bulletproof jacket, which is a rare thing. But it can penetrate depending upon the distance. Now, he can see the battlefield better with night vision goggles. So what my eyes would see up to, say, 100 meters or 200 meters. At night, maybe very little. Now he can see far more. He can see far more. So it has given him more confidence. So he can spot the enemy before I would have spotted it with my open eye. So that's a lot that has happened. Which computers, the drones, the satellites, the GPSs, they know exactly where they're standing. He knows the 6-figure grid reference where he is. I would have to refer to the map and see, and still I may go wrong. But here the chap knows where he is. So you find that, yes, you have empowered him, you've enhanced his knowledge, and at the same time, you've given him the confidence that he can fight the enemy and fight till the last man, last round, much better than what we were able to fight.
I am going to have a small rapid fire round with you, which is visually interesting because it's coming from you and will gives us an in-depth insight into what your first responses are. One word for Siachen, sir.
Endurance.
The toughest terrain you've ever encountered or ever commanded in
Siachen.
Siachen. One quality every young officer today must have, what for you is non-negotiable.
Put in his best, be honest, sincere, dedicated, conscientious, and keep the nation in mind and put in his best.
All right. One military leader that you deeply admire. Can be Indian, can be global.
See, I would say Field Marshal Manekshaw, a person who you can look up to with all the qualities. The ability to raise the morale of the boys, his very presence would make you feel comfortable. Even if you did not have something, you felt this man is there, he'll provide you, whether he can or he cannot at that point of time. But that confidence is there, that ability to move and take the team along and boost their morale. I thought something that was one has to learn from that Field Marshal Manekshaw. That yes.
Any incident you remember that where
No, by the time I joined the army, we had already.
I know.
Yeah.
Any incidents that you could tell us where you think
that sense of humor. You hear him. There's tremendous sense of humor, and what is really, he can diffuse a very tense situation by his humor and be able to cut it back and say, "Kaisa hai?" That kind of a feeling you get from that man when you see the movie or you see in person when you meet him or you see on YouTube various, incidents that have taken place, many incidents that we know and we keep reading about him, that you know that, yes, he is one person in the army that everybody should be. Have that sense of humor, have that, desire to punch in the enemy's face right and proper, and also be magnanimous thereafter. But if you cross the red light, like he said, I am in charge. Nobody will surrender.
All right. What's the bravest thing that you have seen a soldier, that you yourself have seen a soldier do on the field?
In counterinsurgency, when you are actually firing at the militant and when they are in a house and they are seeing us, we can't see them except for the house that from there where they're firing. And that is where I've seen how, you're virtually one-to-one. Who fires first is the question. Whether he fires at you first or you fire at him first. And I've seen such close encounters that at times you feel that I may have lost my life had I not opened fire. So it's a question of your hands, your fingers on the trigger, and they're moving from place to place, and you see a chap and fire. Otherwise, he's waiting for you. He's waiting to ambush you. But you have to ensure that he can't get at you. But should he get at you, then you lose your life, and then you see your men also lose their life. So this is something which I've seen very close. Limb gone, sometimes eye has been lost, and it's terrible thereafter then to see the kind of this thing. But at the end of the day, despite all this, I find the evacuation by the Indian Army, by all means, by this helicopter coming in for you immediately to pick you up and take you to the nearest hospital, is amazing. And that is again raises the morale of the boys, that they are not alone. When in operation, the entire team is working for them. They may not see that team,
but they are there with
the leader knows where and how to contact. And if I'm the leader, I would know if this has happened to him, who do I get in touch with? And you find the person is taken back and provided logistically. If your house is to be surrounded, how it may take 6 days, 7 days. They're logistically they're being sustained from all over, but those chaps are to be utilized. So that kind of a thing very closely. Yes.
What do you think is India's most underrated battlefield advantage?
Our familiarity with the area is something which most people don't seem to know and realize it. But that's the strength. The terrain, the acclimatization is our strength, which the enemy may underestimate, thinking there's a possibility that he may not have the finest weapon with him at this point of time, or he may not have the finest equipment to know where he is. But he doesn't realize it, that he is a master of his terrain. He knows his terrain at the back of his palm. He knows exactly where to go and where to hit him. So that is something which I would say is our strength, which others might underweigh and might think he is at high altitude or serving in such difficult terrain.
Or he has lesser quality equipment than mine. I will overpower, but
He knows it. He knows, because if you know the terrain and you know your men, whatever the enemy might do, you'll still knock him off. Because you have to know your strength, you have to know his weakness. You are hitting at his weakness. And if you're a little less, I'm just saying, even if you're a little less in terms of communication or whatever, generally it is not, but if you are, that desire to kill, that instinct of killing comes, with adversity comes a better, the necessity is the mother of invention. So you know how to, and survival instincts start coming in to see that you survive, but you kill him.
Right. Is there a moment that you recall that changed you as an officer? Take a beat, think about it.
There are times when you do feel it's too much of this thing. But as an officer, I would say that at all times, you are taken care of. So there never can be a moment, unless until it's personal. If it's personal, it's a different thing altogether of individual. But otherwise, as an individual, as an officer, I would say you may feel bad that sometimes you may go with your idea, with a particular concept to a senior who may dismiss you, not knowing that probably you are not in sync with what's happening, or you don't know because he's in sync with what the seniors are thinking, and he probably has been able to dismiss your suggestion because they know that it is visible or not. But he will definitely accept your idea and convey it at the right time to the right people that, look, there is something that is, he feels so that it must be done. I think there is something, some water in this thing that gave him the freedom to do it.
Is there a habit that you have now, which you've carried from your military days, that still shapes your life today?
Getting up early in the morning.
What time, sir?
4:30.
And in what time do you go to bed?
Generally 10:30, 11.
Okay. Okay. So, and then through the day?
Right from 4:30, you get up, finish off your thing, go for a walk in the morning, come back, and then start your routine, read. So that is something which, however hard, it doesn't seem to go. The family may be put to a little hardship because you start getting at 4:30, switch on the light to do whole lot of takpak katpat in the home. They would, but that's something you can't do without this.
That's something that you just have to.
You have to.
Okay. Message to India's soldiers today, people who want to get into the forces, or not soldiers, really, youngsters. What would be your message to India's youth who want to join the army?
First and foremost, he must not join the army for salary. Second, he mustn't join the army because मेरे को पढ़ना नहीं है या मेरे को आराम करना है. He must have that passion in him, that desire in him, that commitment in him, that desire to see the whole country, because he would get so many opportunities at places which nobody can get that opportunity to see. So he must have that adventure spirit in him and mustn't feel bad. Maybe I've not got my lunch right today and in the manner that I wanted it, or didn't get the right place to sleep. He should be willing to accept what comes his way with a smile on his face and be able to give the best to the men under his command. If he's a section commander, the 10 men under him must look up to him and say, yes, he is also going through the same kind of hardship that they are going in. So, the desire of any individual, and I say, if you want to stay disciplined, if you want to have an innovative mindset, and you want to contribute to the society, because today the time has now come, the territorial integrity and the sovereignty can be maintained by people in uniform. No problem whatsoever. But every citizen of India is a soldier, because there's so much within internal enemies that we have. Unless we are keeping our eyes and ears open, we might just find ourselves difficult. Because today, what has happened is we generally don't know even our neighbor, what he's doing, or who our neighbor is, who stays below our house, who's staying above. Nobody knows anything. So it's very important that every person is a soldier. If he gets a chance to serve in uniform, fantastic. If he doesn't get a chance to serve in uniform, so be it. He can still serve the nation to the best of his ability. So both of them are doing their job. The ones in uniform of course, to ensure and to defend the territorial integrity and the sovereignty of the nation, and the ones not in uniform still defending and ensuring that the nation is never compromised and that nation comes first, always and every time.
Wow. I was going to ask you my last question in this rapid fire. What does patriotism mean to you in one word? You just explained it beautifully, but in one word?
Nation. Nation comes first, always and every time. If you have that in you, I think good enough. You don't really need to have anything else. We can differ. We can have aspirations. We can differ in our views. We can differ in anything. But as long as nation is not compromised, it's acceptable. Patriotism is nation comes first, always and every time.
Thank you so much for your time, sir, and thank you for your service.
Not at all.
Really,
Thank you very much.
really, really honored that you joined our podcast, and thank you so much for all the time.
Thank you,
for
Aditi.
us.
Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.